About 9 years ago, enthusiasts were graced with two affordable, lightweight rear-wheel drive sports cars. Both the Subaru BRZ and Toyota 86 quickly grew a cult following because of just how tunable and fun to drive these vehicles were. Now for 2022, there's an all-new version of the BRZ, and today I'm out at Lime Rock Park with Subaru to drive the all-new second-generation model. It has more power under the hood, it has a revised suspension, and it has a new look, which Subaru says is a lot more elegant and a lot more timeless this year. So has Subaru managed to make the new BRZ even better? Stay tuned to find out. So let's take a look at the styling of the all-new BRZ, and just like its 86 cousin, you can see the Subaru has a look that's slightly more unique, that goes more in line with Subaru's styling design language that you find on the rest of their lineup. And you can see the front end is much better looking for me versus the previous generation. I love these kind of Porsche Jaguar-ish headlights. These are full LED low and high beams with an LED daytime running light, LED turn signals. The difference here, of course, is we have the Subaru hexagonal grille. So the grille itself looks different versus what I found on the GR86, which, to be honest, I actually think the Toyota now is the better looking option. I just prefer the larger grille with the mesh finish grille openings as opposed to what Subaru puts. A lot of these vents over here you see are actually functional. This helps to create an air current over the wheels. You can see there's this interesting flat black piece here and here that gives this car a little bit more of an aggressive look. But again, let me know in the comments below if you guys prefer this or you prefer the GR86. The beauty about the new platform, or the updated platform, is Subaru says the torsional rigidity is up about 50%. You're going to notice that out on the road. And this vehicle is slightly lower. It's about 0.4 inches lower. And what Subaru did is they kind of closed off the passenger compartment, trying to make the weight pull into the center. The center of gravity is actually lower. Now, in terms of the overall length, this is still about the same size, 167.9 inches long. It's about an inch longer than the previous generation. Its wheelbase is the same at 101.9 inches long. So Subaru didn't want to make this any bigger, which is a good thing. It's how they were able to keep the weight in check. This particular one that I'm showing you here is the limited trim. The limited trim comes with an 18-inch wheel that kind of has this cool, nice graphite gray finish to them. You have 215 wide tires on 40 series rubber. You have a Michelin Pilot Sport 4 tires. This is the same tire that you find on the upgraded versions of the GR86. The base premium model will have a 17-inch wheel with the Michelin Premises, which have a little bit less traction. This one here has a little bit more grip. You can see the brakes are the standard two-pot, the standard rotors. They're vented. You have all disc around. What Subaru took away from the old TS model was the Brembo brakes that you could get and the Sachs dampers. Instead, what Subaru claims is with this BRZ, it has slightly different suspension tuning versus the Toyota. They're claiming it has more stability, it has more precision. We'll find out about that when we get this vehicle out on the track. Now, unlike the Toyota GR86, which had black mirror caps, this Limited has painted mirror caps. You also can't get a sunroof on the Subaru version either. No black painted roof, which would be also nice to find. This vehicle, again, is remaining rear-wheel drive. And then when you look at the rear of the car, you can see really nice looking car. It actually has some hints of like the Acura NSX. Some people tell me it looks very Honda-like. I just think it's a beautiful car, and you have full LED taillights back here. You have an LED turn signal, LED brake lights, LED taillights. The reverse light, however, is an incandescent design, and you can see here the exhaust system. The mufflers look great. I'll fire up this engine so you can hear how it sounds. And for a factory sound, it sounds identical to the GR86 that I drove a couple weeks ago. Now, compared to the Toyota, Subaru doesn't offer the duckbill spoiler that you got on the upgraded version of the Toyota. Instead, it kind of has a duckbill integrated spoiler, which is the same as the non-premium or the premium version of this car. I actually wish that Subaru did offer the duckbill spoiler. I think that's one of the reasons why I would get the GR86 over the Subaru. But other than that, it's kind of a personal preference thing. The two cars are practically identical. Now, opening up the trunk, this is still a practical-ish car for what it is. You have 6.3 cubic feet of space. The seats still fold down completely, so you can actually put 4 sets of extra tires back here and a helmet. That's what Subaru, of course, said that owners enjoy doing because this oftentimes ends up being their only car. So unlike, for example, a Mazda Miata, this is a much more easy car to live with on a daily basis. So a couple weeks ago, I was out in Monticello driving the new Toyota GR86. If you haven't had a chance to see that video, click on the link in the description below so you can see my take on the Toyota version of this car. So just like the Toyota version, let's start, of course, with underneath the hood. of the Subaru version. And just like its corporate twin, it has a new engine this year. It's the company's 2.4 liter naturally aspirated Boxer flat four. It actually is essentially the same engine that's in the Subaru Ascent minus the turbochargers. That's right, this vehicle still remains a naturally aspirated car. However, because it's a bigger engine, we now have more power. Subaru says it now pumps out 228 horsepower and around 184 pound-feet of torque. That's about a 15% increase in torque because of the bigger displacement. And Subaru says you get that torque at a much lower RPM, like 3,700 RPM versus like over 6,000 in the previous generation. So this is going to feel a lot faster out in the real world. And just like the previous generation, you get a standard 6-speed manual transmission with a limited slip differential. This particular one here has the 6-speed automatic transmission, which Subaru says they've improved the shift logic and the programming of this automatic. And I'm just happy to see that it's a stepped automatic as opposed to a CVT that Subaru does in all their other products. Now, because of the increase in power, we get better performance. You get 0 to 60 in around 6.5 seconds for the automatic and around 6 seconds for the manual. So technically, Subaru is claiming this is about 0.1 second faster than its Toyota cousin. I'll have to test that out at a later date. And fuel economy, this one is rated at 21 in the city and 30 on the highway because it's an automatic. The manual drops it to around 21, 27, which is actually a little bit better versus what you get in the Toyota version. The beauty about this car, because Subaru used a lot more aluminum in the structure, it's now in the fenders, the roof, the hood, the weight of this vehicle remains roughly the same. This one here as it sits is about 2,800 pounds, or about 30 pounds more than the old generation. So you can see I've switched over to this Sapphire Blue BRZ Limited, and this particular one is a stick, but I wanted to show you guys the interior real quick because Subaru did make a couple of small changes to the inside versus the Toyota cousin. First of all, this limited grade model does come standard with the company's push button start system, which Subaru used to also make optional, but now all of them come standard with this smart key. Toyota uses this exact same key with the Toyota logo on it. When you have the limited version, you can see you get these Alcantara black sport seats with the red contrasting stitching, the red accent here. These seats are pretty similar to the top of the line seats you find on the GR86. I don't remember quite as much red stitching in the Toyota, however, but you should know that the Limited is the one that gives you the Alcantara. The base Premium will just have the cloth seats. But overall, the interior looks pretty identical, and it's also pretty similar to the previous generation in terms of the size. Subaru did mention that they made this area here a little bit narrower because they wanted to make the cabin closer to the center. So there is a little bit of less space between the two front passengers. Now, getting inside, you can see the step-in is pretty low still, so if you guys aren't used to a low-slung sports car, this is going to be annoying to get in and out of, but with the manual transmission, the button to fire up the engine is over here where you'd expect it to be. You can see that all-digital 7-inch display definitely is a nice addition this year, although it's not quite as nice looking as some of the upper-end systems that you find on just mainstream cars like a Hyundai Elantra, but when I shut the door has a relatively solid sounding thunk, and you can see that's what the standard tachometer looks like. If you put the vehicle into track mode by just pushing this button here on the center console, you can see you get a more track style tachometer where it's even more digitalized. You can change and adjust the left screen here to be a trip computer. You can also put a G meter. You can show like a power and torque curve right there. And there's even a built-in stopwatch timer, and you can see you can even put your audio information, you can adjust the eyesight driver assistant stuff, and you should know that the manual model doesn't come with their eyesight driver assist. You have to go with the automatic, which includes their automatic emergency braking. You'll see the eyesight stuff over here on the windshield, but other than that, you can see you have a larger 8-inch touchscreen display. This is standard across the board. My tester has an upgraded audio system with 8 speakers. It's not Harman Kardon, but the screen itself is pretty easy to use, very straightforward. It's a good size for this type of vehicle considering how small the dashboard is. In terms of the materials, you can see there's an Alcantara over the instrument panel hood here. It's a soft touch injection molded plastic here, but that's hard plastic, that's hard plastic. And this is also hard plastic, but at least the touch points right here where you'd rest your elbow or your arm is soft. This is also nice and padded. The window controls feel nice and high quality. Tactile, you have your mirror controls over here, your dimmer switches over there. The steering wheel is a tilt telescoping, although I wanted the steering wheel to come out a little bit more for its telescope adjustment, but kind of try that out, see if it's good for you. When you put the vehicle into reverse, you can see there's the backup camera. It doesn't offer a full 360, but Subaru did add the trajectory this year, but no parking sensors. It's pretty nice. This is a pretty small car, so I didn't expect anything too groundbreaking there. Coming out of here, just pushing the home button, which it got stuck on the backup screen display. You can see there's your Subaru Starlink infotainment system. This is, again, not this newest system that you find in like the Outback with its larger screen, but as I mentioned earlier, their Starlink telematics is included with the limited grade. Here's the radio control. When you pull this up, you can see there's all your presets down there. It's pretty straightforward and easy to use. A little laggy at times, but you can see here when you pull up the Apple CarPlay, this is now standard. You also have wired Android Auto. Subaru doesn't do wireless still, but this is all pretty easy to use. You can see here traditional knobs for your dual zone climate control. The 6-speed manual shifter has been updated this year with a little bit better throws. The clutch is also a little bit easier to use this year. The engagement point's right in the middle of the travel. Love the manual. Definitely will go for this one still if you guys are an enthusiast. There's the stability control off button here, and your track driving button. You have your heated seats, which is included on the limited grade version, and you can see this center console, which is a relatively good size. When you close this lid here, you can see it's slightly padded. The seats are also nicely aggressively bolstered. I definitely recommend going with the limited grade seats just because I like the way these look with the red accents. And then the glove box, you can see, is a bin style, and it's not damp, or it's damped, but it's not lined with felt. It's a pretty good size. So overall, the interior isn't too much different versus the previous generation, but Subaru did upgrade, you know, the tech here. I barely see any differences between the GR86 aside from just interior trim color choices and of course the Subaru badge, which in the Toyota you'll find a Toyota badge. So we are finally behind the wheel of the new BRZ, and as you can see, I've got my editor next to me. We are starting off in the automatic model because in the 86 we only drove the stick, and I wanted to drive the auto because Subaru says about 20% of people choose the automatic. It's a revised 6-speed auto, thankfully not a CVT. And Subaru says the 0 to 60 time has been shaved down by about 1.5 seconds for this automatic model. 6.5 seconds is what they're claiming. It is definitely not the penalty box that I expected it to be. I mean, yes, the manual is going to be more engaging. Manual is going to be slightly quicker because Subaru didn't go with like an 8-speed or a dual clutch transmission. But listen to that engine. It screams. Like, it is a nice high revving, lots of pull, naturally aspirated engine, and the car also comes with paddles, which do a decent job of rev matching. Although I found that if you touch the paddle and you leave it in automatic, the transmission goes back into its automatic mode, so you have to actually slap it over to manual, and then it'll actually leave it in manual. And you can hear it there, it did a really good job of going to second there. Put my foot down. Obviously, you still have to wait for the torque to kind of build, but there is less of that dip that you get in the old 2-liter engine. And you know what? I'm actually genuinely surprised. Would I buy the automatic? No, I would still go for the manual. But this is not as terrible as I thought it would be. And the car itself just feels really nice to drive. Now, Subaru went on and on in their presentation today about what changes they've made to the BRZ to differentiate it from the GR86. Mostly they've centered around the fact that they wanted this car to be more precise and more stable at higher speeds and on the track. It has slightly different suspension tuning. It has more aluminum in the suspension componentry. The rear bushing sway bar is mounted directly to the body as opposed to the subframe, which Subaru says reduces unsprung weight, makes the structure stiffer. You definitely get a sense that this car feels like a more substantial car than the old BRZ. Out here on this road, do I feel a difference between the normal GR86? Not really. The car feels pretty similar still, mostly around the fact that this car is the automatic. That's the biggest difference that I feel, obviously. And the steering in this vehicle is sharp and direct, but I do wish that it offered a little more heft to it. It's still too light for my taste. This is the limited model that we're driving, but you really feel how this car has little to no body lean. It just feels chuckable. It feels light. It feels so controllable as well. We're heading out to Lime Rock Park, where I'll switch into the manual at some point as well and get this thing out on a track. But out on the road, the ride quality is surprisingly good. Noise levels are decent. I mean, it's a sports car. You hear a lot of the engine noise, which is being synthesized through the speakers. I just love how it screams. It's such a really high revving engine. Now, my editor was definitely noticing that there's no VTEC crossover noise because he has a Civic Type R, which you can't hear the VTEC in that either, Rob.
from my younger days. Okay?
Yes, from his younger days, because this is very reminding him of a 9th Gen Civic Si, because they went from like a 2-liter to a 2.4. So yes, there's no VTEC crossover noise, but it does have variable valve timing. It has Toyota's D4S direct and port fuel injection.
It feels really good up high.
I'm sorry, say again?
It feels really good up high.
Yeah, it has a really great sound to it up high, and it pulls hard. And really, I just want a little more steering feel and heft in the wheel just to give me a little more confidence. But I mean, this drives just as good as the current generation Miata, except for the fact that, you know, the roof doesn't go down. I'd still buy the Miata, even though Subaru claims the average buyer for that vehicle is over 60. That's what they said. They said for this car it was under 40. So obviously, I just like the old person car. I'm just a convertible person, but they really have done a great job. So yes, this car is faster, it's more refined, it's more precise, it is more fun, and also I think it looks better. Although I do think that the Toyota version of this car looks even better than this version still. There's a slight chirp there. I left it in manual mode. So you have to pull the paddle a little early because it'll bounce off the rev limiter, and it doesn't like that. But yes, no launch control, but it felt a little bit better there when you brake torqued it. All right, so for part 2 of the driving scene, we are on an autocross course here at Lime Rock Raceway. I'm still in the automatic model, and I've got the car in its track mode right now, which puts the stability control in a less restrictive setting. And we're going to be going out on the track as well as this autocross course, but this is really where the BRZ shines the most, is on a closed, very tight turn type of circuit. And even with the stability control off, you can still feel this car will slide out a little bit. And you just feel how tossable and controlled this car is. It really is an amazing sports car that puts the power down so balanced, in such a balanced manner. You can just drift it so easily. And the turn-in is so sharp, actually. I noticed the steering where it doesn't provide much feedback on the road. Actually, I like it out here on this course. And you know what? The 6-speed auto is not a bad partner as well. It's just so tossable and controllable. Amazing balance. Toyota didn't let us do this in the GR in an autocross course, but such controllable. Oh, understeer a little bit. The more I drive this car, the better I actually get at controlling the slide. There's a little bit of understeer there, come on. And this is the limited with the stickier tires. Oh. I went a little too hard there and it slid out more than I'd like, but it's so easy to catch. That stability and precision is what Subaru was going for with this car. Oh. And you can get a sense that it's so balanced. This is why I love driving lightweight sports cars that are rear-wheel drive like this. You just don't get this kind of balance in heavy cars, heavy modern-day cars anymore, and this visceral excitement. It's just so controllable. I'm just shocked right now. All right, so we are at Lime Rock Raceway here, and I've switched over to the manual transmission model. And manual is the way you want to go with a car like this, so it's so much better with the manual right off the bat. And the balance that I was feeling with the automatic version, basically you feel that even more in the stick, and you also feel just a lot more power in this car. Now, this is definitely a vehicle that you want to do an autocross session with, but because we have the full use of the track here at Lime Rock Raceway, I figured it was a good experience to also show you guys what this car is like on a road circuit. Now, I had a chance to drive the GR86 on a road course, so the BRZ should be similar, although Toyota claims that they've tuned the GR86 to be more sporty, to be a little bit more aggressive. Subaru says they went more for stability and balance. I'm definitely getting that here. And the loose front end, or the understeering front end from the autocross course, isn't quite as apparent here. The steering, I'm also noticing, is a little bit more precise here. In general, this is a great track car right off the bat. Just like the Toyota, I wish that they offered like a rev matching with the manual, but you can kind of chuck it into a corner here. It sounds so good. The shifter is fantastic. So even though the automatic is probably the one that people buy more of for the Toyota, I can see why people go for the stick and the Subaru a little more. It's nice to see that, because overall this car is such a fun car out on the track like this, right out of the gate, or autocross is really the best time you're going to enjoy a vehicle like this. So after spending the day driving the all-new 2022 BRZ and also spending some time in the Toyota GR86, it's hard for me to actually decide which one drives better between the two, because I drove them at two completely different tracks. I will say that both of these sports cars are incredible vehicles. If you guys are in the market for a lightweight, affordable rear drive car like this, these two are one of the best ones that you can buy, and Subaru and Toyota have made it even better. As you guys saw, the additional power under the hood is welcome. Yes, it's not a turbocharged engine, but I really appreciate how the naturally aspirated engine responds. I actually really like the automatic transmission, which surprised me, although I do kind of wish that Subaru had developed a dual clutch that'll cost a lot more money. Really, the manual transmission is the one you want to get. This car overall as a daily driver is a little bit easier to live with because it's a little bit more comfortable. On the inside, it's a little bit quieter, but it also still is visceral. It's incredibly fun to drive. And after driving both of these cars in a track setting, I do notice that the BRZ has a little bit more understeer versus the Toyota GR86, although I really need to drive the two cars back to back on the same course to actually decide for that. Subaru says they've tuned this car for a little bit more precision. It definitely is a great driving car, and really, if you're trying to decide between the two, it's really going to come down to your personal preference. Subaru surprisingly says that the take rate on the BRZ with the manual auto is 80-20, so 80% of people choose the manual for the BRZ. However, Toyota claims that for the GR86, about 70% choose the automatic and 30% choose the manual. Super perplexing to me, but hey, that's kind of the way the numbers have been for the previous generation, so I'll be curious to see how it goes for this new version. Now, speaking of which, Toyota didn't have pricing on the GR86 yet. However, Subaru does on the BRZ. This car starts for the base rear-wheel drive premium at $27,995 plus $920 destination charge. If you guys want the automatic transmission, it's about $1,500 extra for the automatic. It throws in Subaru's EyeSight full driver assist technology, which you couldn't even get on the previous generation. If you guys want the limited model that gives you the 18-inch wheels, the upgraded stereo, the upgraded leather Alcantara seats with the heated seats option, that's going to cost you about $2,500 extra. So this limited automatic that I'm driving here with the automatic and the EyeSight stickers for a grand total of $32,595 plus a $920 destination, which makes this car actually a smidge cheaper versus the previous generation by about $800. So it's more powerful, it's more fun to drive, it has a little bit more tech on the inside, and it's cheaper. Subaru has essentially made a no-brainer, so I'll be curious to see where Toyota prices out the GR86, which as of this filming, I do not have pricing yet on the Toyota Twin. But with all that said, I hope you have enjoyed my full overview on the 2022 Subaru BRZ. If you're also looking to see the latest cars I'm testing, be sure to follow me on Instagram at redline_reviews. Like us on Facebook, and as always, guys, please keep subscribing to the Redline Reviews YouTube channel for all the latest reviews. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next video.